again, welcome to Shed Talk, my weekly magazine video series looking at the keeping, breeding and showing of cage birds, with a particular focus as always on the exhibition style budgerigar. I hope you can hear me okay, but I haven't said this for a little while, have I? But as I've started recording, suddenly the noise in here has just gone super loud. All the birds have started shouting at me, trying to compete with me, so I'm hoping the microphone is picking me up and reducing the amount of noise that the budgerigars are making. Anyway, before we start, I just want to say a big thank you to all those of you who have fed back on the last video. It was really much appreciated. There was lots and lots of really good advice, particularly around the problem that I was having with the egg eating hen, and but also along with the number of possible chicks we might have in cage number 6, where we've moved the ones from the egg eater. So I will talk a little bit about some of the feedback I got and what's currently going on in there, and some of the success I suppose that we've had with both those cages and other cages shortly. So what I wanted to do first though was to say a special thank you to Eric from the Bird Ring company and to Ronnie Simpson from the BS about the supply of rings. I know those of you that have been that have got rings from the BS will know that this year the service has been absolutely brilliant, I think anyway, in terms of getting the rings out to people and making sure that they got them on time. Two things happened in my case, probably both down to me, I would add. The first one was that I was having real problems renewing my subscription and ordering rings online. For some reason the website just was refusing to allow me to do both. When it eventually did, I was really close to the date, the cut-off date, and in my haste to get it all done, I clicked on ordering 2024 rings instead of 2025 rings. My mistake completely. Fortunately for me, Eric picked this up and tried to contact me. Unfortunately I missed his call, and eventually I got a message from Ronnie Simpson asking me whether that was my intention to order 2024 rings or whether I actually meant to order 2025. I said a big thank you to both those people for coming back to me on that. So excellent, I managed to get it changed to 2025 rings. I think part of that then led to an error at when they were being entered in the computer, which Eric told me there was a computer glitch, but I suspect some of this is still down to me, and that my rings didn't go through correctly, and therefore they didn't go out with the normal batch. Eric contacted me and asked me whether I'd received them yet, because he wasn't sure if they had gone out. I said I hadn't received them. It was only a couple of days, and knowing what the mail is like around where I am, was not unexpected. But he then sent them out on a special delivery. Actually, it was, you know, recorded a next day delivery, and I received them on the very next day. So a massive thank you, excellent service there from the Bird Ring company. So well done to you, and well done to the BS for making sure that there was less problems this ring. Certainly I've not seen any major feedback online about there being any major problems with the issuing of the BS ring. So big thumbs up to all of those involved in managing to get that done. The next thing I'd just like to say is I do hope that all those of you that, particularly on the west coast of the United Kingdom, you know, from Scotland right down to Wales and down to Cornwall, and all areas in between on that west coast, I do hope that you didn't have too many problems with the recent storm that came blowing through. I know particularly Wales got it really hard. So all of those of you that are watching in Wales, I hope that you didn't have any damage done to your properties, and in particular that your birds survived the storm without too much stress. Here it hasn't been too much of a problem. The birds outside were the ones that I was most concerned about, but actually they seemed to, at one stage I went down there and they were finding it quite, they were hanging off the wire edge to the window, one of the windows, areas, trying to get a look at what was going on outside, I think. So they didn't seem to suffer too much, and the ones in here probably, again, you know, with it being brick built and attached to the property, it wasn't too much of a problem. So I hope that nobody lost birds during that storm and there wasn't too much damage done to your sheds or other property. Right then, that's enough of all of that. Let's go and talk about those cages and that I had all the feedback on. So like I said, I did have lots of feedback about the issue around egg eating in cage number 4, and lots of really good advice. There was people mentioning the fact that it might be that the cells were a bit weak because of a lack of calcium, and that sometimes that the one bit of the shell might be a bit weak. There was lots and lots of feedback on some of the things that I could do with this cage. So I really do appreciate it. Got me thinking about whatever it is that I might be missing. And there was one comment about making sure that the nest box has been kept clean, particularly if the egg has been broken. You know, there might be bits of yolk in there, and that if that goes off, then it will cause bacteria in the nest box and that sort of thing. Some great, really good advice online. So again, thank you very much for that feedback. I am pleased to say that it does appear that removing the eggs and replacing them with a marble has worked for this particular hen, or the cockbird, whichever it was that was destroying them, because the hen carried on laying, and I just was really reluctant to move any more eggs across into cage number 6. So I left egg 7 in there, and for those of you, some people have already fed back on this in the comment section of the last video, but the hen didn't destroy it. She then laid an 8th egg, and that wasn't destroyed either. And funny enough, she's now laid a 9th egg. Now, whether this is because of the first few eggs being destroyed is the reason why she's carried on laying, I'm not really sure, but she has carried on laying. So she's now got 3 eggs in there that have been laid, and she hasn't destroyed them. So I'm hoping that we've managed to, you know, this hen's got the idea that she sits on the eggs rather than eat them. So that's really good news. I haven't candled any of them. But we know that the eggs, some of the eggs that were moved into cage number 6 were full. I have seen this pair can carry on mating, so I've seen the cockbird fed the hen when she comes out, when I tap her out of the nest box. So I have every suspicion that these eggs are likely to be full as well. So touch wood, we will be okay here with these eggs. What that does mean is that these are going to be quite late in comparison with the first ones that she laid. And that brings me on to the problem we're going to have in cage number 6 around the age gap that there will be between the early chicks hatching and the late chicks hatching. So let's nip across to cage number 6 and talk a little bit about some of the advice that was given online around that and what my plans are with that particular cage. So cage number 6 then, and I did say in the last episode this is a bit of a nice problem to have. Lots and lots of eggs in there, a mixture of the eggs from that they've laid, this pair have laid, all of which were showing signs of being full, and the early eggs that we moved from the previous cage that we've just looked at, cage number 4. Most people in the comments had come with the same fault that I did, that first of all, there's too many for this hen to bring up, and also the gap between the older chicks and the younger chicks is just going to be too much, and they won't be able to compete with it. So again, thanks for feeding back on what you would do. There was talk about, you know, making sure that the youngsters are topped up. So I am thinking about that and thinking about what product I might use to give those early chicks a top up. The other concern that I had was that with the number of eggs in there, whether any chick that hatched might just get lost in amongst all of those eggs. So I was a little bit concerned that the hen might miss the first chicks that hatch out with, like I say, with all the eggs in there. I'm pleased to say that we have had a chick hatch in this nest box. It wasn't one of the first eggs, so I think I have a feeling that the first egg has become addled, and I do wonder whether that's something to do with, again, the number, the sheer number, sorry about that, the sheer number of eggs that are in that nest box. Let me just grab a drink. Very professional of me. Anyway, that should clear my throat a little bit. Yeah, so like I say, that might be something to do with the sheer number of eggs in there. However, I think it was the third chick is hatched in here. So, no, second egg number 2 is hatched in this nest box. And again, I was really nervous. I don't know whether you're like this when those early chicks hatch. When you come to check them the following day, there's that, you know, it's almost trepidation, isn't it? You open the nest box almost expecting to find that youngster hasn't been fed. However, I am really pleased that the hen has fed that youngster. It had a full crop when I checked it the following day, and it looks like that this hen's going to be a really good mum in terms of feeding. It does still leave me with that problem about what I'm going to do with the later chicks. But with the hen in cage number 4 now sitting on some later laid eggs, there is a possibility, of course, that I could move the last chicks from here into that nest there. So, and therefore I will have chicks of a similar age. It does leave me with the problem of trying to work out which chicks are which and making sure that I know which ones I've moved into there. Ideally, and this was mentioned in the comments as well, ideally it would be after I've run them, but I just have a feeling I'm not going to be able to do that. But I will be having to manage nests here in terms of the chicks from this box and the chicks from, hopefully, the chicks from box number, or from cage number 4. So, really nice problem to have, and it looks as if the rings that we got from the BS, I may be able to use a few of those on the chicks that are hatching out here. So, generally, so far, all been reasonably good news. Good news in the cage number 2 with the youngsters in there, that they are now looking good, and I think they're almost all 3 of them are now look like they're fully weaned. At the end of this particular episode, we will get those youngsters out and we'll have a quick look at them in the show cage so you can see them just before I move them to the a stock cage or a young bird's or nappy flight, so to speak. But before I do that, another little bit of good news is happening in cage number 5, which of course is the Lutino. So like I say, cage number 5 is another bit of good news. It's all been good news so far in this episode, and that is that this young pair that we've got down, remember both of the birds in here are 2024 young birds, so they were this time last year, so it was just as the ring issue date, they hatched as the ring issue date was, so they're very early 2024, so they are at a breeding age, but they are both young and both inexperienced birds. But I'm pleased to say, you know, I think in the last episode we said that the Lutino hen in here had cleared out the nest box, and I'm pleased to say that she has now started laying in this. So we've got, I think currently we've got 1 egg in there, and still very early to see whether or not this egg is likely to be full or not, but we've got to stage 1, eggs laid on this young Lutino, this young pair, so at least I know that the hen knows what she needs to do, and we just got to hope now that the cockbird has played his part in this. If they're not full, what I will do is I'll give these another round, because it might be just, you know, settling in type of affair. So, but I'm going to touch wood, and I'm going to say that hopefully we will get some full chicks off of this Lutino hen, which will be really, really good news from my point of view, because it will mean that I can get some split inos that I can perhaps put back to the other brothers and sisters of this hen, or the brothers of this hen, who are also split inos. Hope that makes sense. And also I'm going to breed, eventually we'll get the Ino cockbird that we got from Terry Sadler back into the breeding cages, and hopefully we'll get some more there, and that will give me a little bit more flexibility, won't it, in terms of that. And maybe, just maybe, I can start a little bit of a Lutino line. I've never bred Inos before, so I have, you know, it's a learning process for me, particularly around the colour. So if anybody's out there who can give me any advice about what not to breed into the Lutino line, so in terms of affecting that depth of colour, and, you know, making sure that there's no green showing through in terms of that side of things, that would be most appreciated. Or alternatively, of course, what's a good bird, you know, a good colour to put into the Lutino line, because once I've established a few Lutinos, I'd like to see if I can develop them a little bit more. Right, so that's some, you know, the bottom 3 cages are now the good cages. I remember during this breeding season the top 3 were good and the bottom 3 were bad. We've now got bottom 3 going well. The middle cage, the one you can see directly behind me there, has gone well in terms of the fact that we've got youngsters. And what I will do in just a second is we will pull those youngsters out and we'll have a very, very, very quick look at them. It's an early look, bear in mind these are still very young birds, so it'll just be a very early look, quick eye to what I think of them. I think that 2 of them might just be keepers, but we'll have to wait and see as they develop, but you'll see this in just a second anyway. So right, but before we do that, a couple of other things that have happened in December. Those of you that follow me on the Facebook page will know that I got my delivery of seed that's going to take me through to the end of or into the new year. It's always worthwhile, I probably should have said this previously, but it is worthwhile making sure you've got sufficient stock of seed over this, you know, the festive period, because if you run out and, you know, your normal delivery may just be not as good as you might have normally expect other times of the year, just because of, you know, all of the Christmas and New Year's break. So I've got my seed. It will last me right the way through now until the new year, so I don't have a problem with that. The other thing that I've been doing in December is it's time for my quarterly dose of Ronivet, which is a preventative measure that stops a build-up of infection in the crop of the birds. That's my understanding of it anyway. And I did have a little problem with that in one of the flights a little while ago. Sorry about that. Knocked the camera. That's really been one of those expert episodes, isn't it? It's been very professional. Anyway, I do apologise for that. So, like I say, I did have a problem with the, you know, throat infection in the birds a little while ago. I lost a couple of birds due to that. I'm now making sure that there is lots of, or I do use the preventative treatment all the time, and I run it through their drinking water for about a week every 3 months as recommended on the product. Anyway, right, so that's what else has been happening in December. Right, let's get these youngsters out and we'll have a very quick look at them. So the first one then is this light green. It is a cockbird, and it's also the oldest bird out of all of them, and undoubtedly also the worst out of all of them. So this, I can't believe at all it's ever going to make the grade from my point of view, and I'm sure you'd agree with me there that it's tiny little thing really. I know it's still young, and I know it still has a bit of growing to do, but It's also got no width, no shape about it, really, no size at all anywhere. And for a cockbird, almost certainly not. So not the greatest start, but as you will see as we move through these birds, they do tend to improve a little bit. I mean, I'm not saying these are great, any of these are going to be the greatest birds in the world, but certainly the next two are better than this light green. So starting off with this light green cockbird. Right, I'll put him into the stock cage now. Definitely feeding himself all right and his perching fine. So I don't have any real qualms about popping this bird into the stock cage. Not happy being in there. Funny, when I first put him in, he was all right. Now trying to climb all over it and get out. Anyway, let's pop him into the stock cage, as I say, and we'll get out the second one, which I think you'll agree, or I hope you'll agree, is just a little bit better than this one. So light green cockbird. One then is this cinnamon dark green, and it's a hen. And I think you can probably just make out this one's got a little bit more width across the shoulder. It's a bigger bird altogether, and has a bit more width between the eyes. If I can get her to stand a little bit, perhaps. I'm not sure she's going to, but you can probably just make out. You can get her to look a little bit across. A bit more width between the eyes, and around the back of the head. A bit more shoulder on her, and definitely a bigger bird overall than the cockbird, the slightly older cockbird that we've already seen. Not sure she's going to stand up for us at all. See if I can get her attention and get her to look up. There you go. And hopefully you can see her looking up a little bit in a second. Just keeping my hand in the air so she's got something to look at, something to focus on. Again, not the greatest width between the eyes, but certainly better than the light green. And certainly got more width across the shoulder. Not sure about the mask yet, it's still very, very young, but and not holding the wings brilliantly, but overall a better bird than the light green. So a cinnamon dark green hen. And as number two, we'll put this one away as well. Again, this one's perching, so I don't have any worries about popping this into the stock cage or the nappy flight, shall I say. Yeah, not too bad this one. Might just make the grade, particularly as it's a hen. And the final one then is this cinnamon dark blue. And I think it's a cobalt. This is the youngest of the lot, and probably, in my view, the best of the lot when I look at him, or her, sorry, should I say. Again, it's a hen. You can tell it's quite a bit younger if you look at the length of the tail. And this bird is feeding itself, but not perching as much as the others. So I might just put this one back in the cage with the parent for another couple of days. Again, it's got a reasonable width across the shoulder for such a young bird, and reasonable width between the eyes as well. So It's going to be a bigger bird than the other, certainly than the first bird, considering it is a few days younger than well, certainly about a week younger than the oldest bird, than the first bird we saw. So it's still got a fair bit of growing to do. I think you can see the way it sits on the perch that it's not used to perching very much. Another hen, as I say. Eyes, if anything, might be a little bit too far forward. Not sure yet about the mask. It looks a bit weak on the mask area. So overall, we've got 3 birds off this first lot that we might just have 1, possibly 2 keepers, particularly as 2 of them are hens, but they're nothing particularly great here. We'll see how they get on in there. If they do have this pair do have a second round, we'll see how they get on. But hopefully we'll have some better birds than these from some of the other birds, some of the other pairs. Like I say, we'll just need to wait and see. Thoughts at all, as always. Once again, we'll pop this one, I think, back with the parents for another 2 or 3 days, just until I'm sure that it is feeding itself and is also perching. Well, there we go. The birds have now been put back in their relevant cages. So 2 of them have gone into the nappy cage and 1 has gone back in with the parents, although I'm reasonably sure that it's fully weaned, that youngster is feeding itself fine. But I'm going to give it, like I say, I'll give it another couple of days just to make absolutely certain. It is a fair bit younger than the other 2. I say a fair bit, about 4 or 5 days, I think. Anyway, like I say, that is just about all we've got time for in this episode. As always, if you do enjoy it, please do hit the like button. Don't forget to comment. I really enjoy reading the comments and they do help me make some decisions around what I'm going to do with the various birds. So yep, please do comment. If you're not yet a subscriber, please do subscribe to the channel, but most importantly, as always, do stay safe, enjoy your birds.